What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Grilling Dad. Today we're smoking these delicious Asian-inspired spare ribs. We're going to do a head-to-head comparison. Which grill cooks the better rib, the Weber kettle or the pellet grill? Stay tuned to find out. Alright guys, I just want to give you a little bit of a run through of what we're looking for when we're cooking ribs. So if you're doing it on a pellet grill, there's not a whole lot you can do to control the smoke. It kind of is what it is. I'm not entirely convinced that monkeying around with the temperature settings really does a whole lot, because the thermostat is pretty far removed from where the combustion is actually taking place. And so you probably almost always have a live fire going on in your fire pot, unless you have the temperatures really low or it's really warm outside. And even when you do, kind of smoldery pellets don't really give you the same smoke that you would get burning actual wood, whether it's chunks or splits in an offset or something like the Weber kettle. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about pellet grills because they kind of are what they are. They're not particularly smoky. If you're really going for that heavy smoke flavor, any sort of a kettle or charcoal grill you can make work. We just have kind of two zones set up in our Weber kettle. We've got a crescent shaped basket on one side that we're putting our charcoal in, and then on the other side of the grill is where we're cooking our ribs. I'm adding chunks of wood, and I'm trying to run a pretty clean fire. I don't think that there's actual flame in my fire, but I'm trying to run it pretty hot, pretty clean, because that will give me the smoke profile that I want. I don't know how well you can see it, but you probably can't really see it at all, which is kind of what you're going for. It's this real thin blue-gray smoke. That's what you're looking for. And I'm smoking cherry wood. I can smell that it's kind of sweet. It's not acrid. It doesn't smell chemically or anything like that. It's not like burning leaves in your backyard. You don't want that thick, billowy smoke. You want this really thin smoke that represents, almost complete combustion for the fire. And so the smell and the look of the smoke will tell you a little bit about it, but you can also judge by looking at the meat that you're cooking, right? You should expect over the course of, call it 3 to 4 hours, for there to be kind of a bark that forms. The exterior of the meat should become darker. So those are the things that I look for when I'm cooking ribs. Hopefully that's helpful to you guys. Alright, so we got our spare ribs here. These are St. Louis style pork spare ribs. Pick these up at my local Costco. There's typically 3 racks in here. It looks like there's 3 racks. These were about $2.99 a pound. That's what they've been for a while here. If you get full spares, like I know sometimes Sam's Club sells full spares, they're generally cheaper because they haven't had us to butcher as much of the meat. But I like the St. Louis cut. They eat a little bit better. They cook up nice. They've got a little bit less kind of cartilage and stuff that you need to eat around. So I'm going to go ahead and open these up. I learned this from Dogfather's Barbecue. He's got some great content. If you open this end, kind of like an envelope, it's a little bit easier to pull the racks of ribs out. So all we're going to do here is try to trim these up a little bit. Any thin edges we're going to cut off. Something like this. Like this is 100% fat, so we don't need that on there. Alright, so we got our racks of ribs all trimmed up here. Again, mostly just kind of going for a little bit of shape, cutting off any scraggly bits that would otherwise kind of burn up, crisp up. There's a thin portion on either end, cutting that off. There wasn't too much. And then a lot of times folks will remove the membrane off the back. I decided to leave it on, and it usually dries up, crisps up enough that you don't really notice it when you're eating anyways. These are plenty moist for us to be able to season here, and I'm going to be going with a pretty pepper heavy rub, and then I'm going to be doing a little bit of garlic salt. I am going to be putting a binder on here, although it's not really going to function as a binder. These are going to be kind of Asian themed ribs, so I'm going to spritz these a little bit with a mixture of soy sauce and water. This is probably a 1 part soy sauce to 8 or 10 parts water, so it's still pretty salty, but nowhere near what soy sauce would be. You can see some of these granules, flakes, chunks. You want some of that texture on the surface because the moist, textured surface here provided by the spritz and the pepper will trap a lot of smoke flavor. So I'm going to be cooking some of these on my pellet grill and some of these on the Weber kettle. So particularly on the Weber kettle, I'm going for a really smoky rib. So I want that pepper on there to try to trap some of that smoke and get it to adhere to the surface. I'm going to go with a very light dusting of garlic salt on here too. Just kind of pat this in. So I mentioned these are going to be Asian themed sticky ribs. So I have this glaze mixture that I whipped up, and this is 1 part soy sauce to 2 parts Asian wing sauce. Now this Asian wing sauce we got from Aldi, it's like a knockoff of Buffalo Wild Wings Asian Zing sauce. And so this is like a really nice, sweet and spicy with a little bit of salt, really balanced sauce. So, or glaze. I'll put the glaze on right at the end, probably for the last half an hour to an hour, to let it kind of get sticky, almost like caramely on the ribs. Alright, so we're over here at our Z-Grill's pellet grill. This is the Smoke Beast. This has 2 additional shelves. I have the top one taken out. I'm going to be cooking the ribs on the second shelf here. This will give them a little bit of a buffer so they're not so close to the radiant heat from the fire pot. So I'm going to go ahead and get 2 racks on here. I'm going to be cooking 1 rack on my Weber kettle, and I'm going to kind of scrunch these up a little bit. They will probably spread out a little bit, but that'll give you a little bit thicker bite of meat, and pretty much as you lay them in there, that's how they'll cook. On this second rack, I've got my Combustion Inc. CPT wireless meat thermometer. I've got the pellet grill here set at 275. I might adjust that as we go through the cook, but that should be fine to get us started. Now we just want to get some smoke on these bad boys. We're over here at our Weber kettle. We're using our Spider Grill's Venom. I have it set at 500 degrees. Mostly why I'm doing that is because the temperature probe is right over where the coals are, and I want to be running a very clean fire as much as I can. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put 1 more lump of charcoal on here, and then I'm just going to toss a couple chunks of cherry wood on here. Those will start to smolder away. We'll go ahead and get our last rack of ribs on here. The CPT, this meat thermometer, has an ambient sensor right on the tip of the probe, and so I don't particularly care. I'm hoping for somewhere between 250 and 275 on that ambient probe. That'll tell me that's the temperature that these ribs are seeing. When I go ahead and I put the cover back on my grill, I've got my vents wide open, and they're on the side opposite of my fire, so this is kind of functioning as an offset. The air flows through, smoke will come across the ribs and out the vent holes. So we're good here. We're going to let these rock for a little while. We'll check back in probably an hour or so and see how they're looking.
1 hour later.
Alright, I'm out here at the Z-Grills. Check on these ribs after they've been on for about an hour. Hoping to see some more color on these over the next couple of hours here. I'm going to go ahead and spritz these a little bit. Alright, we're over here at the Weber. See how these are looking. Alright, looking okay. I'm going to go ahead and give these a spritz too.
1 eternity later.
So I think these ribs are about ready to come off the pellet grill. So let's open her up and take a look. It's got some beautiful color on here. So when these started temping about 190, I started glazing them a little bit with our soy sauce and spicy wing sauce. See how it's kind of stringing between my finger. It's gotten nice and caramelized on here. So I'm going to probe these, just see how they feel. I think these are just about, just about ready to pull off. So I'm going to pull these ones off, pull the probes out, and we're going to wrap these in foil and let them rest until we're ready to eat them. Alright, so we're ready to wrap here. Just to keep these nice and moist, I'm going to put down a little bit of our soy sauce, and then I'm going to put a little bit of our glaze down too. I'm going to put these back on, just let them rest in there for a little while. I'll probably transfer them to the oven once I'm done cleaning up outside. We're running out of daylight here. It's still February in Minnesota. I'm going to go ahead and take these ribs off the Weber kettle. They're nice and dark, mahogany, delicious. They smell amazing. The glaze is tacking up real nice. We're going to go ahead and take these off, wrap them in foil, and stick them on the pellet grill. All right, just like the other ones. All right, so we got our wrap ribs here. This happens to be the rack from the Weber. I'm gonna open these up. They smell amazing. They look nice and dark. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and flip this rack over just to make it a little bit easier to find the bones. And go ahead and take a bite and see how these turned out. Clean off the bone. This might be the best rib I've smoked. I'm going to let my wife have a little bite. They're a little bit sweet, sticky, smoky, but this is like the first time that I've smoked it. And I think I could go a little bit heavier on the smoke, but there's no acridness or there's no dirty smoke flavor. It's just delicious, smoky rib meat. I could eat about 100 of these, I think. Not over salty from the soy sauce. These are bomb. Now we got our rack of ribs here from the pellet grill. Same thing, gonna flip these over. I can find the bones. Take a bite, give these a taste. Much more tender, still delicious. That glaze is delicious, but by comparison, virtually zero smoke flavor. Let's see what my wife thinks. How do you rate the smoke?
These are delicious, but like you said, not nearly as smoky as the Weber ones.
Which would you prefer if you had your pick?
The Weber.
Me too. Again, both are delicious. I only ever had ribs off of a pellet grill for years and years and years, and so I thought they were the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then the first time I smoked something on my Weber kettle, it became glaringly obvious what my pellet grill was missing, and that's real smoke flavor. Hope you guys like this. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to check out all the awesome content that we're making at The Grilling Dad. Remember, it's all made by dads for dads. See you next time.